we go. Hey everyone, welcome to Tech Tuesday. I'm Rick Uzzi, and today I'm going to be talking about DOCSIS proactive network maintenance, and specifically our PNM application that you can use on mobile devices. I will be right back. Thanks for joining me, everybody. And again, I'm Rick Uzzi with Z-Quorum. So today, the topic is DOCSIS PNM, and specifically the DOCSIS PNM app. The reason I'm doing this is we recently upgraded, or in the process of upgrading, our proactive network maintenance application to version 5 from version 4. And there's a new app that goes along with that. So I want to make sure that as people are moving over to that, you have an idea of how to do some of the things in there, how to navigate some of the features, what you can see, especially some of the new stuff. So let's get right to it. I got a lot of screens to go through here, and I am going to be showing screens on this to make it a little bit easier to navigate. So first thing you got to do is go get the application, obviously. So you see here, I searched for NimbleThis PNM2. It actually brought up both versions of this. So this is PNM. This I already had installed at the time. This was for versions 1 through 4, right? So this application, if you already have it, will not work with version 5. So you need to go get version 2 of the PNM application, the mobile app right here. So once you install that, just tap that to install it. It's going to ask you what language. It's going to default to English, and just go ahead and go on if that's your language, or you can pick something else right there. And then what it's going to want you to do is scan a QR code, and you would get this QR code from the desktop application. So you need to sync the desktop application with the mobile app. So I'm going to show an example of what that looks like right here. So you see when you pull up the desktop application that you have got on the left side there your menu, and when you hover over that menu, it's going to pop out. Let me see if I can get that moving there. So that's going to pop out, and then you see where you need to go on is under Help. So that's where you would sync the apps, get that QR code, and you're going to bring that on down there, and you're going to select Sync the Mobile App. And when you do that, it's going to bring up this QR code. And then you're going to go to your mobile phone, you're going to tap that scan button, it's going to open up your camera, and it's going to put the little target area there, and you're going to put that right over the QR code. And then when you do, that is then going to scan. So you tap that scan button, and once it does scan, it's going to tell you that you've successfully synced with whatever instance of pre-equalization analyzer that you are syncing with. In this case, this is our lab instance, our test bed right here. So it's showing me that I'm synced. And from there, you will then need to log in. Every time you resync, you need to log in. And just so you're aware, when you log into the app, it's going to log you out of the desktop application. And if you log into the desktop application and you were logged into the app, it's going to log you out of the app. So you can only be logged into one at a time. So you're going to log into the mobile app here using the same username and password that you would use for the desktop application. And then it's going to ask you a couple of questions. So you're going to want to allow this. This is allowing the application to see your location when you're using the app, and you want to make sure that you do that, because that's an important part of the app, is where you're located in relation to cable modems, for example. You're going to click that, and then because I had that location enabled, then it's showing me at the time where I was standing. Okay, so if you were standing at a subscriber's house in a neighborhood that had a bunch of cable modems, you would see the devices on the map here. Now I was in a different location, so I could scroll way over to where the modems were that we have in this particular CMTS, or at least pretending where they are in the CMTS. But in this case, there's nothing around me. So if you were in the office, for example, and you're doing this, you're going to see just your office address and just where you're located. You won't see the cable modems. But if you are wherever you are, if you're in your service area where there are modems, they will appear right here. They'll be nearby modems. One thing I want to cover first is the profile little icon right here. There's some things in here that's important to know. So you want to tap that. When you do, you'll see that you've got your, you can put your picture in here. If you've got your desktop set up already with your picture and all that, these things are syncing. So a lot of the things that you already have set up in the desktop are going to be in here already. You can change things in here. So if you set something up in the desktop and you want to change your photo in here, you can do that, or vice versa. If you have any settings that you've set up in the desktop and you want to change them in here, you can do that as well. So they're going to sync up, and one is going to use what the other one has been set for. So you see here you've got your leaderboard rank. This would be if you're doing the gamification thing where how many times you're logging into the app, how many things are you correcting, that kind of stuff. If you're real competitive. This is nice. My phone has a fingerprint scanner on the screen, so I've got that turned on to where whenever I open the app, I can just tap my thumb fingerprint on there and it will open the app. I don't have to type in my username and password. That's nice. I'm going to be mentioning things, by the way, that I talked about in the training for the desktop application that was a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to put some links down below on the YouTube video in the comment section. I'll pin a couple links there, and one of which is going to be a link to the prior videos. At least I'll link to the first one, and then there'll be, on that one, there's links to the other ones. I think I might have links to all of them on that one, actually. So I'll make sure that I link to that so that you can see these things. I'm not going to go into the same detail level that I am or that I did when I was doing the desktop on some of those. So location preferences, that's where if you are just managing a small portion of a plant, if you are just managing maybe one CMTS and maybe there's 4 on the plant, or maybe not even the whole CMTS, maybe just some nodes, you can go in and set locations once they're set up in the app. Somebody can set up different zones for your CMTSs and your nodes and even hubs. And then you can just select which ones you want to see when you're in the app. So that way you don't have to see 27 correlation groups across 4 or 5 CMTS. You'll just see the specific ones for the area that you're managing. Time zone preferences, you want to set your time zone because this is going to be defaulted, I believe, to Eastern, which is where the data center is that's hosting this application. So if you're in a different time zone, select that either here or, again, in the desktop application. If you already set it, it'll be set right here. And that's just so that if you rescan a modem or something, the timestamp is going to be for your area. Color preferences, I'm just going to show this one more time because it's kind of cool, and you can set this in the mobile app or you can set it in the desktop. So if you've already set it in the desktop, it's set, but you can set it up here as well. Maybe it looks a little different if you want to check it out in here. So chart colors are coming later, but right now you can set map pin severity, the colors, as well as other things in here. So you see you've got red, yellow, green. These are your warning colors, and obviously for people that are colorblind, red and green, they don't see very well, and red and green are very important as far as the colors in here, for red being bad modem, green being good modem, yellow in between. So you can change these. Then you've got your other colors here for offline modems. That's black. I think everybody can see black, but maybe you want a more happy color, so you can put something in there. These are the colors if you're doing the DOCSIS 3.1 capacity planning. You can change those. So you can change all these colors to something else, but these are the ones that are primarily going to be used, I think, for people that have color blindness. So you would just tap that. Let's say if you want to change the green, and then you can change it to a different color and apply that, or close that. I didn't apply it, so you see it's the same, but it would show you the new color right here. So I wanted to show that again. And then something else about navigation. You can tap the little arrow right here, or you can tap the back arrow on your phone if you've got that, and that's going to take you back to the different screens. So that would take me back to this particular screen right here, and then I could go back to profile. Something else I wanted to show that's, I think, available only on this profile screen is this settings gear here that gives you some general settings. So when you click that, that gives you the language right here that you could change that later. You were able to set that up when you were setting up the app, but you could change it later here. You can set your theme. This would be dark or light. That's available on the desktop application as well if you like that dark screen with white text versus the opposite. And then here's a web sync with the app again. So this is where you would find that if you wanted to sync later. And the only reason I could think that you would do that would be if you got a new phone. Of course, if you got a new phone, then you'd be downloading the app and you'd be syncing it there. So maybe the only reason you would do it would be if you're like me and you're looking at different systems. So maybe you're a contractor that manages different instances of the application for different operators, or maybe you work for an operator that's got multiple locations and they have those in separate instances, in which case you might need to go back and forth, and you do go through the same process. You just click that and you'll get the same scan button here. You log into the desktop application on the one you want to sync with, go to that help menu, find that, get to that QR code, scan, and you're done. By the way, forgot to mention, if you're online, you can ask me questions and I'll see those, or if you have any comments, you can make those here. That'll show up in the chat and I will look at that as I get a chance. So just making you aware of that. So moving on, so we've got up here we've got our modem watch list, and that's similar to the desktop right here. So the idea of this is that if there's particular modems that you want to keep an eye on, this will make it easier to find them. So basically it's just creating a list of modems that you want to keep an eye on. It's not doing anything special at this point. And then you've got these 3 buttons up here where from the mobile app you can get more details on that particular modem, and that will bring up all of the modem details that you would normally see. I'm not going to show that now. I'll show that in a little bit here. As I go into another feature, we'll show all of the modem details. You can remove this from the watch list, and you can rapid poll. And what the rapid poll is, once again, is that if you're doing a rapid poll, normally we're polling, I think it's red modems only. I'm not sure if it's red and yellow, but we're polling red modems for sure every 2 hours. But something like a green modem, we're only polling once a day. There's no reason to keep polling that regularly, like every 2 hours. But if for some reason you put a modem on here that's not being polled every 2 hours, like a green modem, you can select rapid poll, and then we will poll that one every 2 hours as well. Let's see, back to the home screen here. And next we've got CMTS Overview. You can tap that. So you've got some choices up here that you can make. So when I tap CMTS Overview, I'm going to get this screen. And this is what I was talking about, where if you have a particular zone that you are managing, that's what would show up here. And for example, if I click this, then I'm going to see all of these CMTS. In this case, if I was only responsible for this one, this is all that would show up, I believe, in this case. And if I click that, then I can go into that CMTS and I get some information about the nodes there. So I can see the node names and frequency and the port health on those. And I can see by color how well they're doing. So I've got one green one here, so this is a good one. This means basically it's got a lot of green modems, it's got fewer red modems and yellow modems. It's looking good. But then you've got nodes down here that aren't as good. So you can tap right here on these 3 dots, and you have the choice of showing these on the map, and that's just going to pull all of those map pins where these modems are located on the map, so you can look at them there. You can also show the node data, which is what I happen to tap on there. And that's going to show you kind of a rundown of the node in more detail. So you've got how many cable modems you've got. You've got your red modems. You see there's 11 red modems. That's not a tremendous number. You've got only 4 green modems, though, and you've got 41 that are yellow. So this one we're considering is not in the best shape. So it showed up as red on there. And then as you come down here, you can search for a MAC, or you can scroll down the list. You can see the MAC addresses and what their state is. There's a yellow modem, a red modem, yellow, yellow, yellow. If I scroll down, I'd see lots of yellows, some reds, and I've got 4 greens that would be in that list as I scrolled. So that's from that view there. And again, anytime to get back, you just click that arrow. Next, BI dashboard. So this is similar to the desktop application. The difference is that on the desktop, you've got all of the pretty graphics right there on the desktop, but obviously this is a phone, so it's too hard to show that. So we just show you what these items are, and then you can get to the pretty graphics, right? So for example, first I was going to show here, so like the desktop application, you can add these widgets or you can delete widgets. So that's going to determine what you have in your list right here. So if I click the plus button, I can then add any widgets that are still available. In this case, there's just one that was available, which is the top technical logins, technician logins. That's showing who's logged into the application, mobile or desktop, the most often. I didn't add that, so you could hit close or you could hit save. I hit close when I was looking at that. And then I just scroll down here, and down at the bottom, the very bottom of the list, there's RxMER Correlation Group. Now, if this is not a DOCSIS 3.1 plant, which it's not in this case, and I don't find a need to have that on my dashboard, you can just go ahead and swipe left on that, and then you get this remove. Just tap the X, and then that will be off of your dashboard. So that's a way to customize the dashboard, just like you can on the desktop app. Now again, if you've already done that on the desktop app, it's not going to show up here. So you don't need to go in to the mobile app and redo everything you did on the desktop. It's all going to be set up how it's set up on the other one. But a lot of technicians, they're going to be in the mobile app maybe more than they're on the desktop. So you may be doing more stuff in the mobile app than you would on your desktop. We've got cable modem trends over time, just like we do on the desktop. And here's where, if you click that, you're going to get the pretty graphic that would show up on the desktop application. And you can see you've got your count here, you got your percentage, and you've got your lines, how many offline modems, green modems, red modems, and yellow modems in this case on this particular CMTS. And down here you've got no numbers, and just to let you know why that is, what you need to do once you pull this up is if you tap anywhere in this particular chart, it's going to look at those particular data points. And when you do that, you'll notice that it's now looking at these data points at this point right here on November 7th, and it's going to tell you, actually I guess November 6th at 6 o'clock and 40 seconds p.m. It's going to tell you what the counts were at that time. So how many green modems you have, yellow modems, red modems, invalid, those are modems that we're not able to communicate with, and then your offline modems, 52. So you can see, in this case, it's a good number of green modems, but still a lot of yellow and reds in this case on this one. And a couple other things on this screen. You've got this little filter icon up here, and you'll see this on other screens like this, that you can filter again by your zones or your locations. So if you want to see just specific areas, you can open that up and then select those to filter that out a little bit. And then you've got a gear icon back up here again, but in this case this is specific to where you are. So when I click that gear icon, that is going to show me a couple of changes that I can make on this chart. So if I want to take off some lines on that chart, for example, if I want to remove just the yellow, and just for some reason adjust those, or maybe I want to see this, I want to remove everything but the blacks. I can do that by going in here and unselecting these colors. Also, I can select a different number of days that I want to look at. So again, as I'm looking at this, I've got 7 days that I'm looking at. I could change that right here by just selecting 2 days, 3 days, etc. And what else have we got that I was going to show? Upstream correlation, so very similar to what you would see in the desktop application. You can pull up the correlation groups here. These would be groups of modems that we have determined are passing through a common impairment. So we see an echo cavity, a microreflection out there in the echo cavity, that a group of modems are all passing through. So we know that they're sharing a common impairment. It could be something out in the mainline plant, like a bad amplifier, a loose connector, a bad piece of cable, or something like that, that's causing a microreflection. All these modems are impacted, and you can pull these up in the mobile app as well. When you click here, you're going to get your list of correlation groups. I'm going to show you a correlation group. You'll see here that you've got 3 red modems, 0 yellow, 0 green. Here's 2, 0, 0. I'm actually going to pull up a correlation group from a different list, from a different CMTS, because I didn't think the 3 was very interesting. So, but what you would do is you would click on the correlation group that you're going to pull up, and then you're going to see the blue modems are the ones that are correlated. So we are determining that all of these devices somewhere are passing through a common impairment. And again, if you'll go back to the training that I did on the desktop application, and actually really specifically I did it more on what I did last week, which was PNM concepts. I'll put a link to that as well. I talk about correlation groups and how you can then kind of identify where that issue is. There's a distance that you're given the echo cavity distance, and then we're going to determine where the last good modem is and the first bad modem, and then you've got a distance, and you're going to find somewhere in between there that you're going to isolate where that issue is and then go out and fix it proactively, right, before these all go offline. And you'll notice up here you can go back. I'm going to click that. So you might be asking, well, how do I get to my, if you're familiar with this, how do I get to my ICFR charts and my digital tabs? Because normally they just show up on the desktop application. You got your map on one side and you've got that information on the other. Well, here, what you would do is you would go to these 3 dots and you hit correlation details. And when you select that, then you get your charts, and you can see the information about that correlation group, what node it's on. Here's your outside plant number of feet. So it's 327 feet, 0.76 feet or so that we're seeing this echo cavity. So you can be looking for a distance there, like a piece of cable, or maybe between a active and a passive. You've got a problem where it's bouncing that echo back and forth, and that tells you where to go find that. In this case, we see again that distance, and we see our ICFR, and this is showing me this is the frequency response for all of these devices that you saw on that map, and you can see they're definitely following a similar pattern. So that there's a couple of outliers down here that are, may have other issues that are causing that, but we've correlated all of these. You can look at the pre-EQ and the post-EQ. We're looking at the pre-EQ, which is showing you how bad the signal is before the CMTS tells the modem to equalize the signal. It's looking better once the CMTS does that. You can scroll down to get your digital taps. Again, I talk about what these are, what digital taps are in the training specifically that I did last week, so I will link to that below. Next, Spectra impaired modems. So this is using the full band capture feature in modems that basically allows the modem to act like a spectrum analyzer out in the field. So you can also look at that here. And when you do that, when you tap that, you're going to get a list of all of the issues that we found, you know, adjacency, suck out, and 3 more. Here's a suck out, resonant peak, etc. Down here, wave, tilt, and then 1 more. So I selected this one. Just tap that MAC address. And what this is going to do now, so this is going to open the modem details screens. So anytime you tap on a MAC address in the application, if you want to see what a modem looks like and all the details, you're going to tap there. In this case, I'm getting there from the correlation group, but it'd be no different if I came to these screens any other place in the application. If I looked at the worst modems screen list, and I tapped on one, I'd come to the same kind of thing. And you'll see what we show up here is any issues that are going on. Hold on one second. Whoops, let me go back. Any issues that are going on. And in this case, it's only identifying Spectra. If there were upstream issues, for example, like MER or power levels, it would show that as well here. But in this case, it's just a spectrum issue. And again, it's showing you that we've got tilt, roll-off, and wave. So it doesn't just bring up the spectrum chart. In this case, again, it's bringing up this modem detail screen. So you're going to have to get to that. But you just scroll down. You've got your details right here on this device, and then whenever you see this here, this means you can swipe to the right. And when I swipe to the right on this screen, I didn't bother here, but if you swipe to the right on this screen, you'll see the customer information. So you'll see the name, address, phone number, all of that information would come up for this particular subscriber here. But I scroll down instead. You got your severity here and your rescan. When I scroll down, again, severity rescan. And you've got here your upstream, downstream, and Spectra. So this is why I came here, but I'm going to go ahead and show these just since I'm here. So this is your upstream information. When you tap that, now you'll get that chart with your in-channel frequency response. And this modem, as you can see, it didn't show up as having any issues on the upstream, and the ICFR looks good. It's all in the green. It's not this crazy swinging kind of line that we were seeing last week when I pulled one of these up, or that the overlay of lines that we saw in the correlation group, where a bunch of them were all coming up into the red here. So we've got that. We scroll down and we get our taps. Again, I go into these in more detail in the video that I did last week. And you've got some other information here, settings, filter, etc. So you can find that. And this is the latest data. You can also go to historical, and then you get a little play button, and it will play back the digital taps or the ICFR so that you can see how this has changed over time. You can get an idea, has this modem been pretty consistent, or has it been getting worse or better over time? It's almost never better, right? But if you fixed it, for example, you could see, oh yeah, okay, I fixed it, and I can see a day ago, 3 days ago, whatever, it was really in bad shape, and now everything looks nice and green here. So then we've got our downstream information. So again, back on this screen, I click on downstream. And this is showing my power levels and my MER. Again, I've got a rescan up here, showing my latest poll time. And then this is, here's your SC-QAM channels right here. If you had OFDM channels, if this was a DOCSIS 3.1 modem and using OFDM, then that would be on here as well. Again, go back, and I've got my Spectra information, which again, this is why I got here, was I was looking at the Spectra. We identified an issue there, and this one was showing that we had tilt, a suck out. I think there's a wave there. It's hard to see here. And then you're seeing this. There's obviously tilt, and I didn't necessarily identify a suck out here. But one thing I wanted to show you is that you'll see this little icon right here. This is telling you that you can switch this to landscape mode. This does not work like your phone normally would, where if you just tilt it to landscape, it's then going to display that screen in landscape. It doesn't work that way. What you have to do is just tap this little icon. And when you tap that little icon, I can't show it in this format. So I'm going to go back to this particular screen and actually go to here. So once you tap that icon, then you're going to get it in this format, this nice landscape format. It's a little bit easier to see. Again, I don't really see a suck out on here. I definitely see tilt. And then it's saying there's a wave on here as well. You can see that right there. Actually, you can't see my, think about it, you can't see my mouse pointer on this particular screen. But you can see on the left there, it's saying that there's a wave, and then at the top you see a suck out. It's identifying that somewhere there's a suck out. And then definitely you see the tilt down to the right that way. So go back to this. So I'm back now on the dashboard, and here's my full band capture correlation group. So similar to what I was showing you on the full band capture, the Spectrum, we also, something that's been added to version 5 on the desktop and on the mobile app, is that you can look at correlations of full band capture modems. So what we're looking at is the downstream, and we're looking at that same kind of signal that I was just looking at. And if we see multiple modems that are sharing the same spectral response, so they're all tilting in the same amount approximately, they all have maybe a suck out in the same place, then we say, okay, well, it looks like these are experiencing a common downstream issue because they're nearby, they're near each other, and when we look at the spectrum, it looks pretty much exactly the same. So that's another way that you can go. The benefit there is obviously, rather than drive out to somebody's home and try to fix a problem there, you can look and go, wow, it's not just affecting that customer. So you could do all kinds of stuff at that customer's home, and it's not going to fix that specific downstream problem. So if I want to see that, I just double click. I click this one right here, and this takes me to the map, right? So here I've got the map, and I can see my blue correlated modems, and I see a few over here. I'm thinking that all of these should be in this correlation group, but we're still working on some of the algorithms on this, so they may not be included for some reason. Sometimes it's because a near home issue is doing something else with the signal, so we can't quite correlate it. But the thing that you can do, I don't show it, I think, on this, I don't think I show it in this presentation. I showed it when I was showing the desktop application, is that you can tap any of these map pins and see what their particular spectrum looks like as well. So any map pin that you tap, then you see an image of the spectrum for that particular device. So you can basically do a virtual sweep right here on your phone and see, okay, who has the same spectral response as I'm going through this. But this is showing you your correlation group. And then to get to the chart, you just click this little guy right here, and this shows you your chart. And we're stacking them all up on top of each other. This is page 1 of 2, so I could go here and see a few more devices as well. All stacked on top of each other. There's some different heights here because you've got, that's normal, that you'd see that. Now as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing what looks like a suck out here, not just standing waves, but I'm seeing what I believe is a suck out. So that's interesting. Again, the algorithm didn't necessarily find that for some reason and tell you that that was going on, but you can look at it right here and it looks fairly obvious. And just as before, I'm going to go back to this particular image here. So you can turn, you can look at your, you can look at it in a horizontal mode and a landscape mode. And yeah, I'm looking at that and I do see what looks like a suck out. So this is very powerful to be able to say, okay, well, I've got all of these homes that seem to be having a suck out, as well as these standing waves, and maybe even a little bit of tilt here. It's not too severe, but it looks less severe here than it does when you are on the mobile, because everything's kind of scrunched together, so that tilt looks a little worse. And again, the way that I got to that landscape view was by tapping this little icon right down here, and then on the horizontal view you have the same icon. You can tap it and go back to the vertical view. And I mentioned that right there. So going back to the home screen, up here at the top, I think what I'm going to show here is you've got these icons, and again, you've got, whenever you see this, you can swipe to the right and see more. I can swipe to the left, excuse me. So what we were just looking at here, we've got CMTS Overview, Dashboard, Cable Modem Lookup. So here you just type in a MAC address or a customer's name or phone number or something like that. You can look up a particular cable modem. Got a node lookup. You can look up just this individual node there. When I swipe in that direction, I have also work orders, correlation groups. You can get to correlation groups this way, and you can get to area modems if you want to view just a particular set of modems. These are going to ask you for nodes, so when you tap on that, it's going to say what node do you want to look at, correlation group or area modems. Then you've got your upstream analyzer here, and upstream monitor, and you've got install cable modem. Install cable modem would be Again, perfect for this mobile app. If you're a technician, you just install the modem, you bring up the modem app, the mobile app, and you say, I just installed this modem. And that's going to run a check. It's going to look at all of the readings for that modem, power levels, MER. It's going to look at your pre-EQ values. If it's an OFDM channel, it's going to look at RX-MER, and it's going to basically score all of that stuff. I'll show a birth certificate that comes from that in a minute. So it's going to score all of those things, and it gives you a record of that, so you can see, hey, should I leave? Because that's one of the problems is you install a modem, you leave, and then something's not quite right, and then you get called back there. So this can reduce some truck rolls where you're doing a birth certificate right at that time. If you see something like power levels are off, or there's a downstream problem, whatever it might be, you can then go look further and see what's causing the problem and get that modem in really good shape before you leave. So if you're a manager, you can look at these birth certificates and go, okay, well, it looked good, but they're calling us back again. So it's good for training. Lots of things you can do. So this is the first part of that, is installing that cable modem. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually install the modem for you. That would be nice. Take it out of the box, plug it in, do all that stuff. It doesn't do that, but it will capture all of this data, and then it archives that in a birth certificate. And you can do that as often as you need to. So if you install it, you run the install, it shows you got some problems, you fix those, you run it again, it's going to then archive that one, and timestamp will be later, so you could look at the latest one and you can say, okay, everything looked good, you can leave and feel good about the fact that you left the home, and the customer should have a good experience after that, until they do something, right? Until they move something around. So here's one way you can get to the Upstream analyzer, is up from here, but also down here, you'll notice I haven't mentioned these, but we've got these little icons down here. This is the home screen that I'm on right now. That's why this is nice and big. Here's another way to easily search. Here's how you can get to Upstream Analyzer. This is install a cable modem, like I was just talking about right here. You can see the icons the same. And then this is my BI dashboard. So these are some commonly used things, or kind of quick links that you can get to. So if you want to go to the Upstream Analyzer, it's probably easier just to tap right down here if you're on a screen that's got this menu down in the bottom. So either way you do it, you're going to come to the Upstream Analyzer right here. And I think I had already selected one. So you're going to have to put in a node in here, and once you do, then you're going to tap either Get Upstream Analyzer or Get Upstream Monitor. Basically what it's doing is it's just starting it or launching one of those tools. So if you launch Upstream Analyzer, you're going to get, for that particular node, the upstream spectrum, and this is the upstream spectrum passing through the CMTS. We don't have any other equipment, special equipment doing this. This is just the CMTS that is doing this. So most CMTS are compatible with this, especially newer ones, are going to be able to do this for you. And we can see in here we've got a max line, a min line, the live spectrum is the black, and then this red is ingress under the carrier. And the yellow is the channel I'm looking at. So it looks like there is quite a bit of noise maybe coming in on this channel under the carrier. So that's always good to know. So you can do this, and again, I'm going to one more time show you that if you tap on this little icon here, it's going to make the view a little bit better for you. So you can, whoops, oh, here we go. That's right, there it is. So you can see now it's going to look a little bit less scrunched together, and you can see what's going on a little bit better. Again, the yellow that you're looking at is the active channel. The gray is another channel. I didn't test it on here. I bet if you tap the gray, it's going to switch to that channel. That's the way it works on the desktop application. If you click on the gray information at the top, it changes that. So that may be how you do that. I'm sorry that I did not try that beforehand. And back to this. So that's Upstream Analyzer. And I just showed that. Then you've got Upstream Monitor, so tap that. What Upstream Monitor is going to do, we check this, I believe it's once an hour. Yeah, it's once an hour. So again, what you're looking at here is the active channel that we're looking at, and you got a play button down here that you can tap that, and that's going to then increment. We're starting with, this is the date that I got, this was 10/19, but I believe it's going to start from the oldest time. When you look at Upstream Monitor, it's going to start from the oldest time, and then as you hit play, it's going to go forward in time. You can also, you've got your move to the front here, you move to the back there, and you've got arrows here that you can increment. So if you want to go all the way to the front and go backwards, you could do that just by clicking the little back arrow here. So you want to say, well, what does it look like right? The last capture I had, and then you can go back. And you can see, again, you can see the ingress under the carrier here. It's always nice to know that's going on. And again, you don't need any special equipment to do this. You could buy really expensive return path monitoring equipment that would tell you this, that can sample very quickly and show you the ingress into the carrier, but because the CMTS knows when it's communicating with the cable modem, we can actually display the ingress under the carrier when there are no cable modems that happen to be communicating at that time. So that's how we can show that. Again, you've got your gray here and your yellow right there. And then this is the birth certificate I was talking about. So when you install a cable modem, it's going to create a birth certificate. It's going to show you the date and time, the status of the modem at the time, where the customer lives, node, MAC address, the IP address, private IP address in this case, equipment, cable modem, model. I guess that could be a set-top box if it had this capability. Model, notes. I can't remember what that. Oh yeah, you can enter notes in there, I believe. Then you've got your upstream information here, and you can see it's marked as red that you had some issues on the upstream, and it's going to show you what passed and what failed. So it gives you an idea. Okay, it looks like my MER is good, but my transmit power not good. You got your levels here. Micro reflections, so that would be there's probably an in-home issue somewhere that's causing a micro reflection. Could be a loose connector or something like that that's causing something, a little echo back and forth there. No group delay, but I do have in-channel frequency response that does not look good. That's those squiggly lines that we're looking at. And then the cable modem transmit receive power. Receive power looks good, and I could scroll down and get a little bit more, I think. So that's the birth certificate. So again, what you might want to do is try to address some of these issues. It could be that you find just one thing, changing one thing corrects a lot of these. So you want to get this customer in good shape before you leave, so that you don't then have to leave the home and then you get a call a week later and the customer's not happy. They're getting some macro blocking or something on the they're not happy with their video, or their internet's not great. So it's always good to make sure that you leave the house when it's in good shape. And then lastly, you can get to work orders in a lot of different places. So the work order would be, this can be done, an administrator or manager in the system can issue or assign work orders to people, and when they do, it will show up in their mobile app. And you can have the person can put notes in there and say, hey, I'm adding it to your schedule. I added this to myself. And then the technician can go ahead and make updates, add comments, that kind of thing, and then you can mark off completed when you've made this repair. So this is a really nice way to kind of keep track of what's going on as technicians around the field and working on things. And I wanted to show that this is where, if somebody assigns a work order to you, then you will see a notification. You'll see, like, I think it's a little number up here, like you might see 1 or 2 or whatever, that you've got some notifications. You tap on that, and then you'll see the different work orders that you have that have been assigned to you. So I believe that's my last screen. Yeah. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. I don't think I've got any questions. So thanks for joining me. If this was helpful, give me a thumbs up on the video. And if you've not subscribed, go ahead and click the subscribe button on YouTube. Not on the screen, that's not going to work. But click the subscribe button on YouTube, click the little bell, you'll be notified when I'm live. Again, I will post a couple of different videos here, hopefully before the end of the day. Last week I went through PNM concepts, and I went through in a lot of detail on how proactive network maintenance works. I talked about how pre-EQ works, how that improves your signal. I talked about how we use that pre-EQ data to show you which devices are having problems, where there's micro reflections, where there's group delay. Talked about the full band capture modems, the correlations, went through all of that stuff. More concept level, not so much about the application. But then 3 weeks prior to that, I went through this application on the desktop. So I go into a little bit more detail. If you didn't get a chance to catch that, I will link to that first video so that you can watch that, and then that video has links to the second and the third video as well. Again, thanks for joining me. I will be back next week for Tech Tuesday. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.